What up, players? It's Warboss Tape in this month. Today we're going to paint up this reddish ginger hair color, and I use it on the Space Wolves, but like I say in the video, you can use it on really any figure that you want to have this kind of reddish hair color scheme. So the colors you're going to need are rat skin flesh, squig orange, and Ushabti bone. That is it. You're also going to need, from the shades, Raceland flesh shade and Karlberg Crimson. Finally, if you haven't been able to make one yet, or you don't know how to, I take you a little bit through the process of how I make my wet palette. All you need is a clamshell, a little slip of parchment paper, and some water, and you'll be good to go. So thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you in the next video. What up, players? It's Warboss Tape in this mud. So we're gonna paint on some ginger hair and a ginger beard. So this is going to be how to paint any kind of ginger hair and beard. A lot of different armies have like red-haired warriors, like the Space Wolves guy here. Also dwarves in the fantasy range for the dwarves, and maybe a bright wizard for the Empire. There's all sorts of applications you can use for this technique, and I've been trying to figure out how to use it with the new colors. I haven't really found, there's no real what's the word I'm looking for? Conversion from the old color range that, to me, that I found works really well. So I'm going to be kind of experimenting and just shooting from the hip, so to say. So the first thing I like to do is I kind of like painting the hair last. Some people do things differently. But I like to go last. I like to do the hair as the last thing. So the first thing you're gonna need, and let me see if I could find the color. I've been reorganizing all my stuff here, and the paints just kind of got thrown kicked to the curb. Here we go. Okay, so the first color you're going to use is rat skin flesh. Now there's another color for orange, and I think it's called like Jokairo orange, however you pronounce it. But on my test models, I found that this color is a little bit better to work with. So even if you're doing this first, like the first thing or one of the first steps, or even if you're not doing it as the last step of your model, you want to make sure that you primer your model as best you can with a spray primer, or if it's the weather's not good for that, then hand primer. You just never want to paint straight onto metal or fine cast or plastic. The paint won't stick. Alright. So sorry, the angle is so funky here. What I'm going to try to go for with this color scheme is a more natural ginger color rather than the bright Troll Slayer orange. Great thing about, I guess you could say one of the great things about the new quote-unquote new Games Workshop Citadel paint range is that we are spoilt for choice now. There are so many different colors for all occasions. But it's when you have so much colors and you're less inclined to mix the colors, what I found is that everything looks a little bit more, everything can look a little bit more garish when you're doing your color transitions if you're not mixing your paints. With the old range, I mean, you look at any of the White Dwarf heavy metal masterclass models and their articles, like there are so many different color formulas. You know, you take so much of one color, you add so much parts of another color, this and that, and with the new ones, you're pretty much free to do however you want. So as a base, we let that dry for just a little while. You don't have to for too long. And then we're gonna lighten it up with some squig orange. And I say lighten up, but it's not really lightening up because we're not lightening up the tone. What we're doing is we're adding more of a reddish glow to it. Squig orange is more of a reddish orange than say this rat skin flesh was more of a yellowish orange. So this is gonna look a little cartoony for a while, but bear with me. So like I was saying, Space Wolves, Dwarf Troll Slayers, I'm sorry, not Troll Slayers, but regular dwarves with natural ginger beards. That's kind of the color we're going for. I'll see if I can do a more severe orange for the Troll Slayer hair and beard color if you want that in your collection a little bit later. So we got something like that. And next what we're going to do is we are going to take our squig orange and we are going to add a touch of Ushapti bone. I'm going to make my wet palette here. I've got a clamshell, I've got a piece of parchment paper that I've been using. I'm just going to pour a little bit of my paint water into the bottom here, swirl it around so it gets nice and evenly spread all across the bottom. Then pop that baby right over on top. There is our instant paint palette, wet palette. Take our squig orange, wash off our brush, and add in the Ushapti bone. So what it does is it lightens up the color. It still retains that kind of orangish consistency, but it lightens it up a little bit. Man, with the old color range, I really, really loved my old ginger color scheme. To me, it seemed like natural. It looked good. When they switched all the colors over and I had to kind of redo my recipe. That's kind of why it took so long for anybody who's been waiting for this, and I apologize. Now when highlighting, just like always, we're sticking to the raised areas, like the raised parts of the braids, the ends and the tips of things like the mustaches and the sideburns. This is actually turning out a lot more orange than I had anticipated. That's fine. Alright, add a little bit more Ushapti bone so that it becomes almost like for every one part of squig orange you have on your palette, we're adding 2 parts of Ushabti bone. We mix it up so it becomes more of a pale bone-ish color, and we apply that. First I'm wiping off the excess on my napkin. And that's when we start picking out the individual braids, frost the very tips of the hair. Now we're starting to be as light as possible as we can. Cover just the top of the hair part. It's lightest, or that's the highest towards the light. Follow it down the back a little bit. And frost just the tips. Now we're gonna go straight Ushabti bone, just all by itself. We're gonna put it on the wet palette here, and I'm just gonna use this all by itself. When you're doing this last highlight, then you just want to paint out individual hairs rather than highlighting or dragging your brush across all the hair. That way you pick out individual hairs, they'll stand out more. There, you get that the second to dry. The great thing about the new paints is that they dry pretty quickly. So, I mean, by the time you get to the end, it should be pretty, like what you were working on at the beginning should be pretty dry. So, we're going to paint on Raceland Flesh Shade now through the whole thing. You have to forgive me, I was just watching this movie, Killer Joe, starring Matthew McConaughey, and anytime I watch a movie starring Matthew McConaughey, I notice myself talking like him for at least a couple hours afterwards. So if you hear a little bit of a drawl while giving you these instructions, painting on this red hair here, then that is the reason. Because I'm a big fan of Matthew McConaughey and his work. Lately, at least. There we go. You see what the Raceland Flesh Shade does is it gets into the recesses of all these braids and gives it some really nice lifelike shadow and darkens the orange a bit, makes it much more palatable, much more of a reddish orange. I wonder if I might even want to try a touch of Carroburg Crimson. Yeah, I think so. Let's do it. Why not? Alright, my lovelies, we're gonna go find us some Carroburg Crimson. I must say that this was an unexpected development, so you must forgive me if I do not have my Carroburg Crimson readily available to me. Raceland Flesh. Why do I have 2 Raceland Flesh Shades? Oh, I should cut the camera. I mean, we're just wasting time. Quick, Igor, tell a funny joke. All right, master. All right. Here's a funny joke, master. So, a pretzel was walking down the street, and then that pretzel just so happened to be assaulted. It was assaulted, get it, master? Because it was assaulted pretzel. That's terrible. I'm cutting this off. Alright, thanks for your patience, players. Sorry about that. I had found my blood letter, which is a glaze, but I didn't want a glaze for this. What you find with Carroburg Crimson and the shades in general is that they're the density and the thickness of the color, the pigment and the color just makes it a lot more darker, almost like purplish red. And that's kind of what I would like to go with for this. So we're gonna paint it now into the rest of the hair, like the braids and whatnot. And I gotta say, as much as I loved the old color range and miss a lot of the colors from the old color range, like Deneb Stone and like the old washes instead of the new shades, like I really miss like Devlin Mud and Badab Black. I gotta say that this new color, Carroburg Crimson, this new shade, it does the job. So we're gonna let that dry for just a second, and then when we come back, we'll do some final highlights, and our ginger hair should be almost completed. So I'm gonna upload all this and then hang on for just a second more, and then we'll come back to finish off the video. Thanks, players. Alright gang, so our shades is just about dried, and what we're going to do now is we're just going to go back over with a little bit of the paints that we've already applied. So the first thing is going to be some of that Squig Orange and Ushabti Bone mix. And if you've done like I've done and use your wet palette, guess what? The paint is still able to be used. It's still it hasn't dried yet, which is fantastic and amazing, and all the more reason why you should use a wet palette with your paint range with all your painting as well. I mean, if you've just been playing this video and you haven't taken a break like I have to let the paint dry, then you know you don't really get a sense of how amazing a wet palette is keeping your paints from drying out. I just love it. Okay, so we're doing the same thing we've done before. We're just frosting the tips, hitting all the top areas of the braids, and painting right down the streak on the middle of his hair up here. The center section, the center lines. Alright, and is there any more work we have to do? I think this is just about gonna do it. What you can do, if you're like me and you want to add a little bit more of a pop to it, you're gonna take some Ushabti bone all by itself again, and just do the extreme edges. And this is a kind of like extra step that really will make your figure stand out. But if you don't want to do it, if you're fine doing the little bit of the shade and just this one step of re-highlighting with the squig orange and Ushabti bone color combo, then that is totally fine. You can end it there. I always like to go just a little bit further. It might feel like extreme when you're looking at it close up. The colors might seem like they're too contrasting, but from farther away, like tabletop distance, this last extreme highlight of pure Ushabti bone will really make the hair pop out and be very eye-catching. So there you have it, players, how to paint pretty, in my opinion, a pretty awesome ginger hair color scheme for the models that you wanted to. Space Wolves, like I said, Dwarves, anything like that. Sorry if the model went a little bit out of focus throughout the video. I have a terrible time with this camera being this close and you know, having to paint at certain angles. So sorry if things got a little bit fuzzy, but you can kind of tell the result that you get, yeah? So let me know if you have any questions. Also, if you were able to find this video helpful, or if you have any suggestions on things you would do differently. I think the reddish orange hair is a great contrast to things like the pale bluish gray of the Space Wolves and stuff like that, and I'd love to get your opinion. So thanks again for watching. Hope you guys have a great day out there, and we'll see you in the next video. Latest, players!